Hey everyone and welcome. Our goal today is pretty simple. We're going to walk through how to take a big, general topic and sharpen it into a powerful thesis, one that really gives your writing a clear, academic voice. Let's get right into it.
We've all been there, right? Staring at that blinking cursor, you've got a topic you're interested in, but turning it into a real, focused argument, well, that can feel like a huge jump. Don't worry, it's a super common hurdle, and today, we're going to learn how to clear it.
So here's our game plan for this workshop. We're going to start with the basics, then we'll bust some common myths that trip people up. After that, we get really practical. We'll talk about finding your knowledge gap, building your argument, and finally proving why your work actually matters.
All right, let's dive into section 1. The very first thing we need to wrap our heads around is the massive difference between the thing you're writing about and the specific point you're trying to prove.
Just take a look at this comparison. A topic, it's just a general area. Saying, this paper is about historical events doesn't really tell us anything, does it? It's just an announcement. But a thesis statement, that's a specific intellectual claim. It's your argument. It's your take. This is what moves you from just describing something to actually arguing something.
You know, I love this way of thinking about it. Your thesis is your intellectual compass. It literally sets the direction for your entire paper. It guides every single choice you make, your structure, your evidence, all of it. And it's not just a feeling or an opinion, it's a testable claim that you're inviting others to come and challenge.
Okay, so before we get into building a really strong thesis, we have to clear the air and talk about what a thesis is not. Let's tackle the 3 biggest myths that can totally derail your writing. First up, and this is probably the most common mistake, thinking your thesis is just your topic. Saying, my paper is about World War II. That's not a thesis, that's a topic. A thesis would be something like, this paper argues that a specific radio technology fundamentally changed battlefield outcomes in World War II. See the difference? It's your argument, not just your subject.
Myth number 2 is this idea that you have to sound hesitant, using phrases like it might be or this could possibly suggest. Nope. A strong thesis is the exact opposite. It's a firm, clear, and confident claim. That's not being arrogant. It just means you've done your homework and you're ready to stand behind your argument.
And the last myth we need to bust? Thinking your thesis is some big, dramatic reveal you say for the very end. Absolutely not. Your thesis is the roadmap you hand your reader right in the introduction. It tells them, hey, here's where we're going, so they can follow your logic from start to finish. The conclusion is just you saying, see, we got there.
Okay, so myths are officially busted. Now for the big question, where does a great thesis even come from? Well, it doesn't just pop into your head. It comes from listening in on a conversation that's already happening among other scholars.
This quote absolutely nails it. Your work has to connect with what other people have already researched and written. You're not just yelling into an empty void. You're finding your seat at a very busy table and adding your own unique voice to the discussion.
So how do you find your opening? You look for what we call the knowledge gap. First, look for issues that have only been seen from one angle, a limited perspective. Second, look for old assumptions, those arguments that everyone just kind of accepts but no one's really tested in a while. And third, and this is a big one, look for overlooked or marginalized voices, perspectives that have been ignored. These gaps, that's where your work begins. So you've spotted a gap in the conversation. What's next? Well, now it's time to build your own argument, the bridge that's going to span that gap. It's really a simple 3-step process. First, you identify that gap. What's missing? Second, you shape that gap into a sharp, focused research question. Something like, how did the overlooked letters from factory workers change our understanding of this event? And finally, your thesis is simply the direct, confident answer to that question. It's your solution to the puzzle you've uncovered.
All right, so you've got a thesis. It's clear, it's arguable, it answers a question, but is it important? To find out, you have to put it through 2 really tough but absolutely essential tests. And the first one is the so what test.
And you have to be brutally honest with yourself here. Ask this of your own work. You've proven your point. So what? Why does it matter to anyone? What new value does your argument bring to the table? If you can't answer this, your thesis might be correct, but it won't be significant. Answering so what usually comes down to making one of these 3 types of contributions. Are you bringing new, raw data to the conversation that no one's seen before? That's an empirical contribution. Are you offering a totally new way to think about the topic, a new framework or interpretation? That's conceptual.
Or maybe you're using a new research method to look at old data in a completely fresh way. That's a methodological contribution. Your significance is in what you add.
And this brings us to our second and final critical test. It's related to so what, but this one is all about your audience and your impact. You have to be able to answer the blunt question, who cares?
No, seriously, who is this for? Answering this question is what keeps your work from just being an isolated academic exercise. It forces you to think about the community your work is actually for and the real people it might affect.
So who does care? Well, first, think about the specific scholars you're talking to. Who in your field needs to hear this? Second, think beyond the university. Does your research impact how a certain community is understood or treated? And finally, think about the big picture. How does your little piece of the puzzle make our collective understanding of the world richer, more complete, or maybe even more just?
At the end of the day, this whole process is about one thing: finding your academic voice. It's not just about winning an argument. It's about taking your place responsibly in a massive conversation that's been going on for generations and adding something that matters.
And remember this, a truly great thesis doesn't just end a debate. It often sparks a whole new one. It opens doors for other people to walk through. So as you head back to your work, don't just ask what you want to argue. Ask yourself this: what new conversation will your thesis start?